The night before our wedding, my fiancée threw a pre-wedding party in our suite, bringing along her 8 boy toys. When I got there, a huge fight broke out, and just as I raised my hand to slap the last one, she shielded him behind her, her expression grim. "Anyone else, but not him," she said. "And why not?" I sneered, kicking him down the stairs with a single, cold motion. My fiancée personally saw to it that I was sent to prison for 3 years. On the day of my release, she came to pick me up, pushing a wheelchair. And it sat that same familiar face. "I was wrong about what happened back then," she said. "Our engagement is still on." The boy looked at me, his eyes welling with tears. "After you pushed me down the stairs and broke my legs, and couldn't bear to leave me, so she took care of me for 3 years. Don't worry, I've already booked a flight. I'm leaving right away." I glanced at my fiancée's slightly swollen belly and gave a cold, heavy grunt. "Fine. The one I didn't kill 3 years ago. It's time for him to die now." Hearing my response, Caleb's eyes reddened as he stroked N's stomach. "Baby, don't blame Daddy for not being there for you. It's all my fault for what I did. Take one last look at your daddy. This might be the last time you and your mother ever see me." His voice was pathetic, and he sobbed so hard he could barely breathe. Anyone who didn't know better would think he was on his deathbed, but N always fell for this act. She tenderly wiped Caleb's tears away before turning to me. "Louis, what happened back then was my fault. Don't worry. I promised I'd make it up to you with a wedding, and I will never go back on my word. But Caleb is the baby's father. No matter what, the child is innocent. Why don't we let him stay here until the baby is born? Let them meet, just once before he leaves." "Okay." I looked into Anne's eyes, and they were filled with sincerity. It was the same look she had when she sent me to prison for Caleb. "Of course. I have no objection. Louis, it seems those 3 years in prison really did make you gentler and more reasonable." And smiled, relieved, and right in front of me, she carefully helped Caleb into the passenger seat that had once been mine alone. I smiled too. It was better to keep him right under my nose. It would save me the trouble of hunting him down when it was time to settle the score. When we returned to the house that had once been ours, I found my room had been completely transformed. The decor was now a French provincial style I despised. From the clothes in the closet to the trinkets on the desk, there wasn't a single trace of me left. There was even a wooden crib by the bay window. I knew with one glance that Anne had built it herself. She had prepared everything so thoroughly. She never had any intention of sending Caleb away. Seeing my eyes narrow, Caleb suddenly shivered and stammered, "Louis, please don't be angry," and was just worried about me being alone. "So, she brought me here to stay. I didn't know this was your room. I'll pack my things and move to the guest room right now. Please, just don't hit me." He looked terrified, trying to get up but collapsing to his knees because of his legs, and rushed to lift him, comforting him in a soft voice. "Caleb, you don't have to be so timid. I set this room aside specifically for you." Louis wasn't using it, so it was just sitting empty. She then looked at me and explained, "Louis, you can see his legs are bad, and it's hard for him to get around. Besides, his health isn't great, and this room gets the best sunlight, which is good for him. Why not let him have it? It's only for a few months." In the past, no matter how much Anne fooled around with other men, she never let them flaunt it in my face, much less take what was mine. She always said those men were just a game, that she loved watching me get jealous and deal with her little flings myself. But Caleb was different. For him, she made one exception after another. Of those 8 boy toys, he was the only one who was real. I said nothing and turned toward the guest room. I woke up from a nightmare in the middle of the night, my throat dry. I went to the wet bar for some water and saw Anne on the balcony on the phone. Her voice was laced with a sharp, mocking laugh. What could I do? The poor boy cried so much after he was kicked down the stairs. I was on a roll and had to help him let off some steam. The more I thought about it, prison seemed like the perfect place for Louis. That aggressive personality of his needed to be worn down. Besides, if I hadn't put him away for 3 years, how could I have had my fun with Caleb? Now I'm pretty much done playing around, and Louis is out. Once Caleb has the baby, I'll send him away and settle down with Louis for good. But Louis really has changed a lot. It was worth bribing those old-timers in there to condition his temper. My hand, clutching my phone, squeezed so tight the case creaked. Before Anne could turn around, I was back in my room, leaning numbly against the door. After a long moment, I lit a cigarette. I looked in the mirror, and my own bloodshot eyes staring back through the haze of smoke. It was just like my first year inside. My hair hacked off, my skin split open from the lash of a belt, the searing heat of cigarette butts being extinguished on my flesh, the cold shock of an iron rod, the smell of blood that never seemed to wash away. So the targeted abuse from those old-timers, the torture, it was all arranged by Anne. Every moment I was living through hell, she was busy losing herself in another man's arms. One of my men called. Louis, everything is almost in place. Should we move now? No, let them enjoy their little victory for a few more days. It will hurt more when they lose everything. In 3 years, and never visited me once. So she had no idea that starting in my second year, the men she had paid off, both inside the prison and out, had all started dying from a series of strange accidents. And thought she could train me into a docile pet, but what walked out of that prison was a demon. Later that night, someone slipped into my bed. I recognized the familiar scent of her perfume. Louis, you're so thin. You've suffered so much these 3 years. I missed you terribly. I stopped her wandering hand. If you miss me so much, I said flatly, why did you send me to prison and never once come to visit? And lowered her gaze and sighed. We grew up together in that orphanage in Miami, depending on each other, fighting our way to where we are today. Do you really think it was easy for me? But you're just so stubborn, Louis. It's not good for you. And you did hurt someone. Maybe some time to cool off was for the best. I was afraid I'd go soft if I saw you. And Caleb's legs were ruined because of you. He needed someone to take care of him, and I had to atone for what you did. She looked up, but that's all in the past. I'll make it up to you from now on. 3 years of hell, of living without seeing the sun, of deliberate, calculated torture, all dismissed with a few casual words. Just as Anne's lips touched my cheek, the housekeeper knocked on the door. Ms. Sterling, Mr. Vance says his stomach is hurting. He's asking for you. I'll be right there. Louis, I'll come back for you in a little while. The tenderness of a moment ago vanished. She left in a hurry and never returned. I went to the bathroom and scrubbed the spot she had touched a dozen times, until my skin was raw and stinging. Only then did the nausea begin to subside. The next day, Anne told me to get dressed up. Caleb is being so thoughtful. He's planned a welcome home party for you to celebrate your return. Louis, don't disappoint him. I wanted to see what game Caleb was playing, so I agreed. The party was a large affair. In addition to people from our company, many of Anne's business partners were there. She had done well for herself in the last 3 years, networking with industry leaders and powerful players, many of whom she had secretly backed. They, in turn, had returned the favor, and their success had brought her new funding and expanded her company's reach. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, 2 buckets of what looked like animal blood were dumped all over me. What are you doing? And yelled, glaring at the waiters. Caleb explained timidly, and don't be mad. Louis just got out yesterday, and I heard things like this can wash away bad luck. Prison is such an unclean place. My stomach was hurting yesterday, and I was worried it was because of some bad energy affecting the baby. I was just trying to help. People might not say anything, but they're probably thinking it. It just gets rid of any bad feelings. But don't worry, I already have a change of clothes ready for him. It's a gift I bought specially for him. Hearing this, Anne's anger subsided. Then I'll go with Louis while he changes. But Caleb held her back. And your partners from the Sterling Group are here. If we don't greet them first, it will look rude. And considered this for a moment, then nodded. You're right, Caleb. You think of everything. Louis, you go change on your own. I'll wait for you down here. I had arrived wearing a long-sleeved shirt and slacks. The clothes Caleb had prepared for me were a tank top and shorts. The moment I walked out wearing them, I understood his true intention. As the crowd's gaze fell upon my scar-covered skin, a collective gasp went through the room. My God, can you even call that a human body? It's disgusting. I think I'm going to be sick. That's Louis Blackwood, just out of prison. I heard he caused trouble inside and was taught a lesson. They say he was messed up so bad he can't have kids now. Serves him right for what he did to Mr. Vance. Honestly, a guy like that doesn't deserve Miss Sterling, does he? Mr. Vance is a much better match for her. Even with the wheelchair, he's so handsome. Not like this guy. That scarred body would probably scare Miss Sterling half to death. Caleb blushed, feigning embarrassment. Please, don't talk about him like that. He's learned his lesson. Everyone deserves a second chance. He added, besides, how could I ever compare to Louis? And bought him a beautiful diamond watch. I'm nothing. He knew exactly how to play the victim. One of Anne's partners, a man I'd never met, looked from Caleb to me, his tone dripping with disdain. Miss Sterling, I must have misheard. Is that hideous criminal really your fiancé? And I locked eyes. After a few seconds, she looked away. No, she said. He's just a friend from childhood. Her words were no different than announcing our breakup to the entire room. The crowd immediately erupted in cheers for Anne and Caleb. A perfect match. Get together. Get together. The business partner nodded emphatically. That's more like it. A woman like you, and a fine watch like that, only a handsome man like Mr. Vance is worthy. In the end, and fastened the watch onto Caleb's wrist. Oh, and I couldn't, he protested weakly. This is for Louis. It's fine. They're right. It suits you perfectly. I just picked the wrong gift for Louis. It's yours now. Consider it a reward. A reward for saving her face. The partner shot me a look of pure contempt. Is he still here? Miss Sterling, having this freak around is going to ruin my mood for talking business. And came over to me and whispered, Lewis, just go home for now. I'm sorry, but I have to close this deal today. Just put up with it for a little while, and I'll clear things up with everyone later, okay? Before she turned away, she hesitated. And in the future, maybe don't wear clothes that show your arms or your neck. I didn't miss the disgust hidden in her eyes. It was laughable. Did she forget that every single one of these scars was her doing? That night, I was jolted awake by the sound of and kicking my door open. She stormed in and yanked me out of bed. Just because I didn't acknowledge you today and gave the watch to Caleb, you decide to do this to him? Before I could even process what was happening, she was dragging me into Caleb's room. The duvet was sliced open, and inside, a dozen slimy leeches were writhing. Lewis, I didn't mean to take your watch or your place, Caleb cried. It was about Anne's reputation. I couldn't say anything. But how could you be so cruel, putting these blood-sucking things in my bed? I'm anemic. I'm lucky I found them in time. I'll give you the watch back. Just please, leave me alone. I looked at Anne. I didn't do it. Check the security cameras if you don't believe me. But she wouldn't listen. I don't need to check. I know how vengeful you are. I thought you'd learned your lesson in prison, but you've only gotten worse. I should have left you in there for a few more years. She seethed. Either way, I'm teaching you a lesson tonight, so you never dare to hurt Caleb again. Half an hour later, one of Anne's men walked in, pinching his nose and carrying a large barrel. It was filled to the brim with a writhing mass of leeches. He had them dumped into the bathtub, then gave the order. Hold Lewis down in there. I snapped my head up to look at her. And you're going to regret this. The only thing I'll regret is not teaching you a lesson. With that, they forced me into the tub. Hundreds of leeches swarmed over me, latching on in a dense, writhing blanket. The water instantly turned crimson. I passed out shortly after. When I opened my eyes, I was on the living room sofa, getting a blood transfusion. I'd almost forgotten that, and I shared the same blood type. She watched me for a long time before sighing. Why do you have to be so stubborn? If you had just admitted you were wrong, just back down a little, I wouldn't have had to do that to you. What was that supposed to be? An apology after the assault? I ripped the 4 from my arm and staggered upstairs. Behind me, I heard Anne's voice, sharp with frustration. Lewis, let this be a lesson. I don't want there to be a next time. At the top of the stairs, I ran into Caleb holding a bowl of soup. Oh, Lewis, you're awake. I made you some soup to help with the blood loss. You should eat it while it's warm. I stared at him coldly. Is this how you people operate? Staging these little dramas to get what you want? Hearing that, Caleb dropped the act. He leaned in and sneered. I'm surprised you even made it out of there alive. But so what? In the game of love, the one who isn't loved is the one on the outside. He glanced over my shoulder. Don't believe me? I'll prove it to you. He suddenly smashed the bowl on the floor, screamed, and threw himself out his wheelchair, tumbling down the stairs. And came running at the sound and caught him in her arms. And walked up to me, her face a cold mask. A second later, a powerful hand grabbed my collar, and I was sent tumbling down the stairs. I felt the warm trickle of blood from my scalp. Lewis Blackwood, you never learn, do you? Try to pull the same stunt you did 3 years ago, she said. I told you that was the last time. Since you clearly don't take me seriously, then everyone was right. A violent, malicious criminal is not fit to be my husband. After what had just happened, I knew any explanation was useless. I looked up at her and smiled. What's the plan, Miss Sterling? Are you going to send me back to prison for your little boy toy again? Her eyes fell on my bloody face, and she paused. Since Caleb wasn't hurt this time, no. But I'm changing the groom. The wedding will be for Caleb now. You owe him that. As for us, after my wedding to Caleb is over, I'll still marry you legally. It's the least I can do after all our years together. From then on, you'll stay here, quietly at the estate. Caleb will accompany me to public functions. I almost laughed out loud. And wanted to have her cake, and eat it too. The sarcasm in my eyes must have enraged her, because she yelled at her bodyguards, Take Lewis to the estate in Lake Forest immediately. Don't let him out without my permission. Let him stay there and reflect on his mistakes, so he doesn't hurt Caleb again. 4 or 5 bodyguards forced me into a car, but they didn't take me to Lake Forest. Instead, they dumped me in an abandoned factory on the south side. One of them pulled out a knife and grinned. Mr. Vance gave the order. Said you're not supposed to see the sunrise. It's just business, so don't take it personally. No wonder I didn't recognize them. I'd assumed they were new hires, but they were Caleb's men. Oh, and Mr. Vance didn't want you to be bored while you die, the man said. He sent something for you to watch. He shoved a phone in my face, and my eyes widened. On the screen, Caleb, who had been in a wheelchair just moments ago, was standing and linking arms with, and as they picked out wedding tuxedos. He was giggling. And are you sure it won't make people suspicious if I suddenly don't have to pretend to be crippled anymore? Don't worry, she replied. We'll just say you found a miracle cure. We have to make sure our Caleb is the most handsome groom. After all, it was your brilliant idea to throw yourself down the stairs the moment Lewis's foot touched you. All I had to do was get someone to fake the medical report to put him away. Lewis was getting too powerful over the years. Sometimes I worried he was less of a partner and more of a rival. I fought too hard to get where I am, and I won't let anyone threaten that. I thought everything he went through in prison would have broken his spirit, but he's still the same. The July air was hot and heavy, but a deep, bone-chilling cold washed over me. Nearly 20 years we'd been together. I was with her when she had nothing. We were partners, friends, family, the person each other trusted most in the world. I never imagined it would come to this. She wanted to destroy me because she was afraid of me? How pathetic. I looked at the bodyguards closing in, their faces twisted into sneers. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them again, they were filled with murder. Cripple them. Before they could react, men in black suits swarmed from the shadows, taking down Caleb's thugs in an instant. Amid the sickening cracks of bone and choked screams, my man Ethan handed me a handkerchief, his eyes burning with fury. Lewis, I'll go kill those 2 animals right now, he said. I calmly wiped the blood from my face. They've gone to so much trouble to plan a wedding. It would be a shame to let it all go to waste. The wedding planner is one of ours, isn't he? Tell him to convince Caleb to have the ceremony at sea, on our most luxurious yacht. Caleb loves to show off, he'll agree. As expected, Caleb, who had always been obsessed with that yacht, took the planner's bait, and, of course, had no objections. The more extravagant the wedding, the better for her image. But on the day of the ceremony, Caleb was nowhere to be found. Someone mentioned seeing him head to the master suite that had been prepared for their wedding night. The guests joked about it. The groom must be eager to get the honeymoon started. Ms. Sterling must be quite something. Go get him. There will be plenty of time for that after the ceremony. Enforced a smile, but a knot of unease was tightening in her stomach. Urged on by the crowd, she went to the suite. The moment she pushed open the door, the air filled with screams. Caleb wasn't in the room. The king-sized bed, which should have been covered in rose petals, was soaked in blood. Lying in the center was a severed hand, still wearing the diamond watch. I clapped my hands slowly as I stepped out from the crowd. What a show, I said with a smile. You always have such special decorations for your wedding night, Miss Sterling. Why don't you go have a closer look? Seeing me, and froze. Then her face hardened. Lewis, I told you to stay at the estate. Who let you come here? And what is this, some disgusting prop hand? Are you trying to ruin my wedding? You must have stolen the watch from him. Where is he? Hand him over right now, or I'll reconsider our own marriage license. I had to laugh. And you can't possibly still believe I give a damn about marrying you, do you? As for where Caleb is, don't you worry. It's your wedding day. I wouldn't dream of separating the bride and groom. He's right out on the deck, and ran to the deck, half doubting my words. There, she found a massive glass tank had been set up. Inside, several sharks circled, their jaws wide, and, suspended above the tank, missing one hand, was Caleb. When he saw, and he screamed in terror. And help me, Lewis is insane. He cut off my hand, and now he's going to feed me to the sharks. It hurts so much, I don't want to die. Caleb, and tried to rush forward, but was blocked by my men. Lewis, you've gone too far. You're forcing my hand. I'll have you sent back to prison. She motioned for her own security to grab me, but none of them moved. He smiled here. Enjoying the yacht, Miss Sterling? Since I came here today to settle our accounts, did you really think I'd let any of your people on my boat? I continued. And as for your threats, I should remind you, we're in international waters. I'm sure you understand what that means. The color drained from Anne's face, replaced by pure rage. I never gave the order to sail out this far. The captain is one of yours. You set me up. It seems that even after all your time playing house, you haven't become completely stupid. Lewis, what the hell do you want? I smiled and tilted my head. Finally, we get to the point. I'm here to collect a debt. From this moment on, you will do exactly as I say. And gritted her teeth. Don't push me, Lewis. I have nothing to feel guilty about. I don't know you a thing. I have to admire your nerve. It's even thicker than I remembered. I heard your little boy toy's legs were miraculously healed. Perfect. Now I get to see what's tougher, your resolve or a shark's teeth. I gave a slight nod, and my men began to slowly lower the rope holding Caleb. Just as Caleb's feet were about to dip into the water, and finally screamed, her eyes wild. I'll do it. Just don't hurt him. That's better. You know, I'm suddenly reminded of the smell of seared meat. Now, take these cigarettes and extinguish them on your skin. My men brought out a bundle of 100 lit cigarettes, without hesitation, and pressed the glowing tips into her own arm. The sound of sizzling flesh filled the air. She stared at me, not even flinching. Satisfied? Not even close. Now drink this bucket of swill. Every last drop. The humiliation of the command finally made her flinch. But one look at Caleb's terrified, tear-streaked face, and she gritted her teeth. I'll drink it. This time, she couldn't maintain her composure. She only made it halfway through before she collapsed, vomiting violently. I shook my head in mock regret. What a shame. You failed. My apologies. At my signal, my men brought iron bars down on Caleb's legs. The sharp crack of bone was followed by a piercing shriek. Lewis, and screamed. You were always ruthless, but never this cruel. What happened to you? I lit a cigarette and smiled. Why? You made me this way, Miss Sterling. You don't understand? Then allow me to make it perfectly clear. A moment later, a familiar voice echoed from the yacht speakers. Soon, everyone on board was listening to the recording of Anne and Caleb, detailing how they framed me, sent me to prison, and paid men to torture me. A wave of murmurs went through the crowd. So, Caleb's legs were never broken? It was all an act. If she fell out of love, she should have just said so. Why be so greedy and cruel, sending a man to prison to be tortured? It's a miracle Lewis survived, and Sterling is disgusting. I looked at her ashen face and smiled. You said I ruined his legs. I served the time for it, but his legs were fine all along. Seems like I got a raw deal, don't you think? So, it's only fair that I'm here to collect what I'm owed. And was silent for a moment, her voice losing its defiant edge. Lewis, so you knew. You're here for revenge, aren't you? I'm the one who wronged you. But this is between us. It has nothing to do with Caleb. I was the one who hurt you, not him. He reminded me of you when we were kids. Innocent, kind, gentle. I missed that version of you. You became so powerful, so aggressive, it started to scare me. It's all my fault. Do whatever you want of me. Just let him go. Her words made me laugh, a harsh, tear-filled sound. Innocent, kind, gentle. And if I had stayed that way, neither of us would have survived to see today. Back then, we had nothing and no one. Two orphans with no family to protect them. If we wanted to survive, to succeed, we had to rely on each other and carve out a place for ourselves with blood and steel. Besides, I added, do you really think he's so innocent and kind? What do you mean? I gestured to a guard who brought over the diamond watch and had no idea that before she gave it to Caleb, it had passed through my hands. One of the small decorative dials was actually a micro camera. In front of her, I connected it to a laptop. She watched the footage of Caleb planting the leeches in his own bed before calling for her. She saw him throw himself down the stairs, and she heard every word he said. Finally, she saw the footage of Caleb talking to his men. Take him somewhere remote and get rid of him. He thinks he's still going to marry, and he can dream on. I'm going to be her only husband. Anne's face went dark. She walked to the edge of the tank and slapped Caleb hard across the face. Didn't I tell you this was just a game? You actually tried to have Lewis killed. This wedding was a gift. Who gave you permission to get so greedy? You deserve to be fed to the sharks. Caleb sobbed pathetically. Anne, I'm sorry. I just love you so much. I wasn't thinking straight. And Lewis is fine, isn't he? For my sake, for our child, please, save me. And hesitated. To be fair, Caleb had served her well these past few years. He had made her feel something she thought she'd lost. Lewis, he's truly sorry. Why don't you let him go? Fine, nodded. I can even let you go. Anne's face lit up with surprise and joy. Lewis, I knew it. I knew you still loved me. Don't worry, I'll send Caleb away for good this time. You'll never have to see him again. And even though you can't have children anymore, I promise, this baby will only ever know you as its father. Caleb even look a little like you, so the baby will too. Even now, she was still trying to have it all. And don't celebrate just yet. I'm not finished. It seems your business partners have something to say to you. It might be wise to hear them out before you make any decisions. As I spoke, the very same industry titans she had backed over the years moved to stand behind me. They gave her cold, empty smiles. Ms. Sterling, if you choose to save Mr. Vance, then don't be surprised when we all pull our funding. I added more fuel to the fire, tossing a folder in front of her. And you and I founded this company together. We agreed from the start 50-50. At first, I actually thought you sent me away just so you could be with Caleb. But guess what I found while I was gone? You used a series of offshore accounts to create a shell corporation and siphon off more than $1 billion. Did you think I was dead? Her eyes fell on the documents, on the proof of the wire transfers and bank statements. These were her most protected secrets. No one knew about them except for the new assistant she'd hired 3 years ago, a sharp, capable young man who had been unfailingly loyal. She slowly raised her head, and sure enough, there he was, standing behind me. The realization finally dawned on her. She stared at me in disbelief. They're all your people? You sent them to me, had them give me exactly what I needed, so I would back them and help them take control of their family businesses. Louis, you've been planning this for that long. I gave a cold laugh. The feeling's mutual, isn't it? Caleb was never the real reason. It was always her fear of me. That was the real reason. These men, or their fathers and brothers, were my cellmates. They were framed by their own families and left to rot in that sunless place. And just like me, they were targeted inside. I taught them how to be strong, how to survive the torture. And now, they work for me willingly. How does it feel to be betrayed by someone you trust? You brought this on yourself. If I hand these documents over to the SEC, how many years do you think you'll get? And was silent for a long time. Then she suddenly dropped to her knees in front of me. Louis, I was wrong. I'll get rid of this bastard child. Just let me go this once. I can't go to prison. I can't lose my funding. I can't lose the company. Well then, Miss Sterling, it seems you have a choice to make between your boy toy and your career. It's a tough decision, I understand. I'd hate to make things difficult for Mr. Vance. Perhaps you should just let him go. And slowly got to her feet and looked at Caleb. Caleb, I'm sorry. His eyes widened in terror. And what are you doing? In the next instant, and produced a knife and sliced through the rope holding him. Caleb plunged into the tank. The scent of his blood immediately sent the sharks into a frenzy. One of them tore off his leg in a clean bite. Caleb thrashed, trying desperately to climb out, but it shoved him back in. Caleb, don't you love me? If you love me, you'll sacrifice yourself for my future. I worked too hard to get here. I can't lose everything, she screamed. Don't worry, I'll remember you. Just think of it as you atoning for what was done to Louis. I rested my chin in my hand and watched him. It seems you weren't the one she loved after all, Mr. Vance. Caleb screamed, grabbing onto her arm with his remaining hand, cursing her. And you monster, I'll haunt you from the grave for this. Because of Caleb's death grip and lost an arm in the process. She watched coldly as the sharks tore him apart. Better to be haunted by a ghost than to have nothing, she muttered. In her heart, nothing mattered more than her ambition. I learned that lesson 3 years ago. Caleb learned it far too late. Louis, I can bring all the money back. I'll get rid of the baby. Can you let me go now? Of course. I won't turn in the documents. I'll fix the financial holes you created. These men won't pull their funding, and the company will be more successful than ever. Before she could even sign relief, I held up my phone. Because you'll no longer be a part of it. The video on the screen was frozen on the exact moment she cut the rope. First degree murder, Ms. Sterling. Do you think you'll ever get out? Oh, and I forgot to mention, we were in international waters earlier. But the moment you walked over to Caleb, we crossed back into U.S. territory. Her head snapped up. What are you talking about? You forced me. Oh, did I? I pressed play on the audio recording. My voice could be heard, saying only one thing. Perhaps you should just let him go. You see, I advise you to let him go. You didn't listen. You cut the rope. You held him down. What does any of that have to do with me? And was still defiant. All these people saw what you did. She gestured to the other guests, the ones who weren't my men. But in the next moment, they all began to shake their heads. We didn't see a thing, and was dumbfounded. I lifted her chin and smiled. You didn't really think I spent the last 3 years focused only on you, did you? You sent me away because you were afraid of me, yet now you underestimate me. Do you know, during that first year inside, the torture gave me constant nightmares. Eventually, I made a vow. One day, I would become everyone else's nightmare. In these 3 years, I built a powerful network, an empire of information and influence. I have leverage on every single person here, and was led away. I scanned the remaining guests. Ladies and gentlemen, I trust you all know what to say and what not to say. They all nodded eagerly. Yes, Mr. Blackwood. Of course. We'll follow your lead from now on, CEO Blackwood. A few days later, Ethan informed me that and had been diagnosed as clinically insane and committed to a psychiatric hospital. I nodded. Excellent. We've known each other a long time. We should pay her a visit. When I saw and again, she was strapped to a therapy chair, surrounded by 7 or 8 handsome young men. Each of them bore a slight resemblance to me. Her eyes were dull and lifeless, but they flashed with a desperate light when she saw me. Louis, I'm not insane. They made a mistake. These men are monsters. I can't take it anymore. Send me back to prison. I'd rather face a firing squad. Ethan leaned in and spoke respectfully. Louis, the staff said they're following your orders. They're medicating Miss Sterling 3 times a day to ensure she remains stimulated around the clock. Anne's eyes widened in horrified realization. It was you. Sure. I pressed a finger to her lips. Anne, we've settled our business debts. But the personal ones? You still owe me for those. You said it yourself. I'm a vengeful man. Did you really think I let you die so easily? I remember when you betrayed me. You said Caleb looked a little like me, didn't you? I had to honor such deep affection, even if it was fake and disgusting. Since you love substitutes so much, I had these young men undergo a few minor cosmetic procedures. Don't worry, I've paid them enough to last a lifetime. So enjoy yourself and try not to die too quickly. I would be very disappointed. Okay, as I was leaving, I heard her final hoarse scream. Louis Blackwood, you'll go to hell for this. You'll die a horrible death. But her words were soon drowned out by the overwhelming sensations coursing through her body. Soon enough, she would die from pure, agonizing exhaustion. When I stepped outside, Ethan was waiting. Louis, the dinner has begun, but they won't start serving until you arrive. I know. Let's go. And said I would go to hell. Heh, I already crawled out of hell once. And for as long as I live, I'll make sure everyone knows. I'm hell itself.